Okay, so good evening to all. Today we are going to start our first session, which is going to be on AWS. AWS is a cloud service provider, and if we talk about AWS, then first we need to understand its full form, right? So first, let us talk about what AWS is. So AWS is nothing but Amazon Web Services, right? So AWS is Amazon Web Services, right? So here on this AWS or Amazon Web Services, we have so many resources that we can use to work, and we can use those resources to create and work on them, right? So today, what we are going to do, we are going to talk about two resources that are available on AWS, and don't worry, we are going to talk about multiple resources that are available as a service on AWS. But for today, we are going to talk about two services. First is EC2, and second is S3. We'll talk about both of them. So we are going to start with EC2. Okay, so first let me ask you both. So do you guys have any prior knowledge about EC2 or S3? Anything will be, appreciable. If you guys know anything about it, you can open your mic and just let me know that you know anything, and you can tell me if you know it.
So I know a little bit about it as I've worked on it,
Okay,
and I only know how it is used in
okay,
creating stacks, buckets,
okay, okay, okay,
pages.
okay, okay. Understood, understood. Okay, and Vasudev, do you have any prior knowledge about it?
No, sir, I don't have any prior knowledge about this.
Okay, okay, no issues, no issues. You can close your mic. Okay, so now we are going to, work with this, and I'm going to tell you what is EC2 and S3. Right. So I have, prepared a PPT for you guys to have a better understanding about the services. So how we are going to move through this session is that first we'll understand these services theoretically, and once we have a better understanding that what the services is, then we are going to move on to the AWS console, right? So AWS console is nothing but a place where you are going to work on the services, right? So I'll show you what is AWS console and how we are going to navigate on it in some time. But before that, we are going to understand about EC2, or you can say Elastic Compute Cloud. So Elastic Compute Cloud is the full form of EC2. So this is a big name, right? Elastic Compute Cloud. In short, we are calling it EC2. So to have a better understanding, they have just given it, the name of EC2. Same goes for S3. When we'll talk about it, we'll, understand it in a deep manner. So let us start with, what is EC2. Okay, so let us move to the next slide. So what is EC2, right? So this is a basic definition of EC2, and what it does. So let's, read it to understand how and what it is. So Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, or in short EC2, is a web service. It is a web service providing resizable compute capacity in the cloud. Right. So this this by reading this, you might have an idea about what this particular thing is doing, right? So just a minute. Okay, so what this sentence is saying is that this is a web service, right? So the AWS or Amazon Web Services is over the internet. It is on the internet platform where you are using this particular service by having the access onto the internet. So when you have the internet, you can access AWS. And on AWS, there is a service which is EC2, and this particular EC2 is a type of web service which provides us the compute capacity. By compute capacity, I mean that by compute capacity, I am saying that we can create machines. What we can do? We can create machines, right? And by creating machines, I mean computers, or say virtual computers. Right. So these virtual computers that we are creating by using this EC2 web service, and these virtual computers are, resizable. So so what is happening here is that this Amazon EC2 service is like a renting service where you can rent a computer over the internet, right? So what happens is that you guys go onto EC2, the services on AWS, and after going onto the EC2, what you are doing, you are basically creating a virtual computer, or in short, or in normal language, or in everyday language, what we say we are creating a virtual machine, right? So whenever I am saying a virtual machine, it means that I am creating a virtual computer, right? So on an everyday day basis, what we are doing, we are going to EC2 and we are launching a virtual machine based on the requirements that we have with us, right? So there are multiple requirements which we are going to talk about in some time. But for to have a better understanding, I just want to tell you that create a virtual machine uh, we can create a virtual machine in a very efficient manner by using the EC2 service. Plus we are just renting that particular virtual machine. We are not taking that virtual machine physically. We are just renting that particular virtual machine over the internet. So over the internet and on the AWS cloud platform. So what happens when you have a cloud service provider? They issue multiple services, and on their services they are providing resources which we are using for us to create to create them and work on them. So so we can also say that instead of buying a physical machine, we can just start a virtual computer for ourselves, which is also called the instance on AWS. On multiple platforms, they have their own names, but on AWS, either we'll be saying we are creating a virtual machine, or we'll be saying we are launching or provisioning an instance over this particular service. So what happens that this instance runs on AWS servers, right? So now what are servers? So I'll not be going deep into the servers, but to give you a plain context about it. So so we can say that these that AWS has set up some physical servers at a particular location, and on that particular location they have set up a server which is managing the cloud activities, and the services that we are getting, and the machines that are being provisioned are we are getting those particular machines from that server. So what happens here is that there is a single server. So there is a single particular server, and let's just say we are in the Mumbai region, right? So let's suppose that this is a server, right? Right, so this is a server, and this server is set up physically in Mumbai region. Right, so in India we have Mumbai region as the main region that has been set up by AWS, and this Mumbai region is being used by everybody that are using this particular service EC2. So so here what we'll do, we want to create a virtual machine. Right, so in short, I'm writing a VM. So we want to provision a VM. So what we'll do, we'll click on a launch instance over the console, and what will happen there? Uh, a, a VM will, a VM will provision. So what will happen from this particular server? So this from this physical server, will get a part, will get a part over the cloud, and from there we are going to provision a virtual machine. Right, so this is what the servers are doing here. Right, and this particular EC2 service is as you know is a very beneficial service. We can uh, we can do multiple tasks, like we can run websites on it. We can we can create applications. We can analyze the data, and so and so forth. We can do multiple things, right? So by this EC2 service, we are able to create a virtual machine, and on that virtual machines, we have further multiple options to to make sure that we are working properly on it. We have multiple things that we can do on that virtual machines. It's just depend on us how we are going to uh, to work on them. What is our need? What we want to do on it, right? So next thing, let's come back to the slide. Next thing, next point is it is designed for developers to build and deploy scalable applications. So this point is saying that this particular service is designed for developers like us. We people develop or deploy a virtual machine. On that virtual machine, we can create a website and then host that website over the internet, and that will be accessible to the people who we are targeting as our clients, right? So we can do that by using this EC2, right? So there are some key benefits that are related to this service, and they are: it is a cost effective service, it is scalable, and this service is flexible as well, right? So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so on the next slide we have some key features about our EC2. So the first feature is elasticity, or you can, in simple words, we can say scalability as well, right? So here it is mentioned that add or remove instances based on demand. So this means that we can create or we can delete instances or the virtual machines on demand, which means that if we do not want a virtual machine to work anymore, what we'll do, we'll simply delete that particular virtual machines. That's it. Or if we want to create a new virtual machine after deleting that particular, after deleting a virtual machine that we do not need, we can also do that. It depends on us how we are going to make sure our work is not being impacted by doing these things, right? So this is what we have in our hands, that we can create or delete instances based on our demand, right? So there is an example as well, right? So let's suppose you have created a website using EC2. So you were targeting a set of audience to your website. But what happens in the future that your website got a sudden boom, right? Because of that, the you can say the visitors that were visiting your website, suddenly spiked or increased. So what will happen? Your website will start to crash for a little bit. So to avoid that particular thing, what you can do, you can make sure to enable the auto scaling group, right? So what is this auto scaling? So auto scaling means that we give a particular number to our instances, that if on our website the visitors are increasing, they are visiting more frequently, so what we can do, we can add the compute power, right? So what will happen if did you know in this particular time, let us suppose what is auto scaling, right? So let's suppose there is a time frame from morning 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. or something like that. You can take this, or you can take it for every day, for like 24 hours as well. That your that uh, that the visitors or the public, right? Let's say public, that public is visiting your website more frequently, right? So the threshold that you set for your website, as is getting its peak audience or more than its peak audience. So what will happen, it will start to crash. So when it will crash, the audience will be facing issues with accessing your website. So what will happen, this auto scaling feature, what this auto scaling feature will do, if we have enabled this auto scaling feature, then what will happen? Some new machines will be creating, right? Will be creating automatically, and those will be managing. So what will happen when they are creating automatically? So the new virtual machines, what they'll do, they'll divide your traffic, right? So when if your traffic is divided, so what will happen? The the CPU management of over your instance, right, which was spiking because of the public, because of the more visitors, that your CPU was spiking. It was reaching its threshold. So what will happen? It will start degrade, and the traffic will be divided over the new instances. So this auto scaling will help your website to work fluently, right? This is what enables auto scaling to ensure applications remain available means, right? Then we have the second point for us is instance variety. So what is this instance variety, right? So offers different instance families optimized for computing memory storage or the GPU workload, right? So for that, to understand this point, we need to have a better understanding of what a computer basically is, right? So a computer has a CPU, a RAM, a ROM, a GPU, right? So let's just talk about this for this time. CPU is our central processing unit, or the main component which is running our computer, right? So this is our main component. Then we have RAM. RAM is a random access memory, which is accessed frequently, or we can say if we have a 4 GB RAM, so what will happen? This frequently accessed memory will help to make the process smooth. And we have a ROM, which is a read-only memory. This is the storing capacity of for our instance where the data is being stored. So this is a ROM, and then we have a GPU, graphic processing unit. So this GPU is used for rendering type of things. So when if on our website we have to render multiple things, so we use this particular GPU. But if our website is that not that big of a GPU thing, then we can skip this as well. So our so what happens? There are multiple instance families which we are going to see in some time. So by using those families, what we can do, we can create instances based on the families and the pricing that they are offering to us, right? So this is another key feature that is offered by EC2, that we have different instance families that are optimized for computing memory storage or GPU workloads. So this means that these different families have their different features, right? So one family is good for computing, one is good for memory, one is good for storage, and other one is good for GPU workload. So it depends what work we need to do, what work we are going to do. It depends on that, and based on that dependency, we can use we can use a different instance families. So this is the instance variety. This is one key feature. Now let's talk about integration with AWS ecosystem. So what this means is that we can integrate this EC2 servers with other AWS services as well, right? So we have S3 simple storage service, then we have RDS relational database service, and then we have AWS Lambda. AWS Lambda is a serverless service which we are going to understand later, but for now let's focus on EC2. So this EC2 service can integrate with these services, and there are other services as well on which we can use our EC2, right? So these are the three services that you can make note that we can use EC2 with them as well, and with the other services also. Then we have security. So for security, there is a service in AWS which is called IAM, or Identity and Access Management. So this particular service is used to provide roles and policies to our EC2 instance, through which what we can do, we can secure our instance. Based on the requirements, we can secure our instance, which we are going to see practically also. Then you'll have a better understanding of what this roles and policies are doing on our EC2 instance, right? Then then we have another point which is includes a VPC support for isolated network environment. So VPC is a virtual private cloud. It is one another service on available on AWS, and we are going to talk about it, but later. But for now, this point is saying that this VPC that VPC support is also included to isolate the network environments. I'll show you this particular point when we are working this when we'll be provisioning an EC2 instance. Then you will have a better understanding of what a VPC support is, right? Then the last point is pricing flexibility. Okay, so here here it is saying that this there is an on demand pricing, then there is a reserved capacity and spot instances. So these are the three pricing flexibility that we are getting here, and we'll see about these flexibilities when we'll be working. So I'll be showing you how these things work, right? So let's move to the next slide. Okay, so now we have instance type, right? So which we were talking about in the previous slide, that there is a variety of instance, right? So we can use a different instance families, right? We were talking about this. Now we have these particular families, right? So to talk about the categories, there are five categories which we can use to provision an EC2 instance. So the first category is the general purpose, or you can say the most used category is the general purpose. Now, what this general purpose is doing, this general purpose category is providing the most balanced instances for tasks, for the multiple tasks that we are going to provision on our instance. For example, websites or small applications, something like that. And in general purpose, we have some families like T2, T3 or M5. We are going to see this on the documentation page clearly, that what general purpose is providing us and what is the pricing tier for this general purpose instance type category. Then we have the another category which is compute optimized. So this compute optimized category is used for heavy calculations right? For heavy calculations like gaming or scientific tasks, something like that. So we used compute optimized instance type for gaming or the scientific tasks or some other tasks as well. So there are some categories in it as well. So for example, we can say C5 or C6G. So these are the names of the category which we are getting in compute optimized. So we'll see on this on the documentation page as well. For now, just you can read it and understand that these are the categories that we have, right? So this is for compute optimized. Then we have memory optimized also. So what is memory optimized is that these are used for the apps that needs a lot of memory, right? So there are apps, or you can say for the database purpose. So you can say we have a website, right? On the website, uh, there is multiple people are visiting that particular website, right? So to have the data about the visitors, we have a database, right? So for that particular database to store the information, we used memory optimized instance types to have to store at the big databases over the instance. Then then we have storage optimized, right? So this storage this storage optimized is for accessing huge amount of data or something like that. So there are some categories in it as well, like we have some I3 or a D2 instance type. And then in the end we have accelerated computing. So this accelerated computing is used for machine learning or video processing tasks, where we need our virtual machine to work, in a good speed. So for that particular purpose, we have accelerated computing instance types. Okay, so till here, do you guys have any questions? You can ask them, or we can move forward.
No, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. So if you do not have any questions, then we can move forward. Right, so we have understood about the key features. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so we have understanding about the key features and the instance type. Let's move forward to the use cases of these instance types, right? So there are multiple use cases, as we'll be seeing in this particular slide. First, let's talk about the general purpose, right? So it is a balance between compute, memory, and networking. So the use cases for it are web servers, deployment, and testing environments. For these particular purposes, we can use general purpose instance, and by using them, we can work on the tasks. Then we have compute optimized. So these compute optimized are for high performance processors. So what happens in compute optimized, you get high performance processors based on Intel or Ryzen. So what will happen? You will be getting a very good processor. You can say i5, i7, or i9, whatever they are providing us. It depends on the size. So they will be giving us the fast processors to work on the tasks that are based on high performance. And then we have the memory optimized as well. So in memory optimized, we have high memory to CPU ratios. So they need a high memory, means we need a large amount of RAM. So if there is a good amount of RAM, then we can work on good thing on multiple things like data mining. Okay, so previously people were mining the data and in cryptocurrencies or in other things. So they needed a good GPUs and RAMs to work with. So for that particular task, we can use high memory optimized instances. Then we have storage optimized, where we need a good a good amount of storage, which have a good like a good read and write speed performance, right? So like in our laptop or desktops, whether we are purchasing a laptop or a desktop, we see three particular things in them: the processor, the RAM, and the ROM, right? So for ROM, we are particularly seeing that what is the read and write speed and what generation it belongs to. So if it has a good read and write speed, then it means that this particular SSD or hard disk is going to perform very good for our task. Whether we are playing games, we are developing something, or we are working on UI or UX. So it depends. So these so for the storage optimized, we are saying that we need an instance type which is giving us a, a very good performance on read and write quality. So this is what we are going to use it for, and its use cases are data warehousing and big data processing. And in the end, we have accelerated computing. So here it is used for GPUs. We use GPUs for intensive computational tasks like machine learning. So in machine learning, there are multiple tasks, right? So like I was talking about rendering, video encoding, and here it is one more use cases, which is AI, right? So we use these type of instances for these use cases. It depends on the work of what we are doing. So we just need to have a basic understanding about these instance types, so we can work on them, and based on the requirement we can make use of the instances. Also, we need to make sure that the instance we are choosing is value for money, right? We cannot choose anything if it is it has a very high pricing. Okay, so let's move to next slide. And now we are going to talk about the pricing models. So what is a pricing model? So in the pricing model, we have three types, or you can say we have four types, right? So first is on demand, then we have reserved, then we have spot instances, and then we have dedicated hosts. So first, let's talk about the on demand instances, or the instances we use normally when we are working. Right. So, in these type of instances, there is no upfront cost. We are paying by hour or seconds. So normally we are paying by the hours, right? So when we'll be provisioning an EC2 instance, you will see how we are paying by the hour for that instance, right? And it is suitable for unpredictable workloads, right? So by this, it means that the workload that we are going to work could be less or could be more. It depends. So these on-demand instances are perfect for for unpredictable workloads. If we have a less work, we can just provision a lower instance, and when our work is completed, or if we need to to increase our work, if our workload is increased, we can increase the instance type as well. Then we have reserved instances. So these instances are used for a long period of time, right? So if you are working in a team, and or you can see you're working on a project in a team, so that project is going to take some time, a long period of time, and you want your instances to be running, and you want them to you want those that particular instance type to run more and more, right? So that particular instance type is being run for multiple days or something like that. So what you are going to do, you are going to use the reserved instance types. So here what happens, commit to a 1 or 3 year term for discounted rates. So what happens is, here we'll talk or we'll talk about these. What happens? We talk with AWS for the reserved instances, and we take them for 1 year or for 3 year term plans, right? So there are terms. So for how much time we need these instances, right? So we use these instances either for 1 year, 3 year, 6 year, 4 years. It depends for how many years you want it. So we'll we can ask AWS to provide that instance to us for discounted rates. We can ask them, and based on the discounts, if they are available, then we get those particular instance on a discounted rate, and we can use them on that particular price for for every day, right? You can use those type of these type of instances can run every day, and because we have paid upfront, right? We have paid upfront for a single year, and on for that single year we are going to provision that instance every day, or it is just running continuously for hours, right? So it is they are best for steady state usage. So steady state usage means that those particular instances are just running. We are not terminating them, stopping them, or we are not, we are not making any changes to them. They are just running. Nothing is happening. Or some that we have provisioned them to work on the project, and they are just running steadily. So these type of instances are best for these type of use cases. Then we have spot instances. So, so spot instances are uh, these are bid for unused EC2 capacity at a lower price, ideal for fault tolerant applications, right? So what happens? We use spare capacity at a low price, but but it might stops if AWS needs those resources back. Okay, so what happens is these EC2 instances capacity are unused, right? So we bid for them at very lower prices. So we get these particular instances at a very low price. Like we are bidding for something, right? So we are bidding for the instances at a very lower prices. When we get them, we can use these particular instances. But if AWS wants their resources back, they can get them at any time. So what we are doing, we are using these particular instances to check our applications or the websites if they have any fault, or there is something missing with our website. So we use spot instances because we are getting these instances at a very low price. So so to avoid using so what happens in here is that, just a minute. Okay, so what happens here in a spot instances, right? So what happened here is we bid for unused EC2 capacity. What will happen? We'll get an instance at a very lower price, right? Once we have these at a very lower price, then what we can do? We can provision those instance, and then we can test test our applications, that if there is any issues with our applications, we can use these, and we can use this type of instances for this particular service, right? Okay, then in the end we have a dedicated hosts. So dedicated hosts are physical servers fully dedicated for your use, useful for a regulatory and compliance need. So these are set up physically. We are setting up an on-premises host means that we are working in a company, and in a company there is a need to set up physical servers, right, to increase the security, because we do not want anybody on over the internet to access our resources or to hack into our system. So what happens is we set up on-premise physical servers, using the cloud services, and through that we are accessing the resources onto that particular service, right? So this is it for the pricing model. Now let's move on to the next slide. So then we have how can we launch an EC2 instance, right? So rather than understanding this theoretically, we are going to learn about it when when we'll be provisioning an EC2 instance, right? I'll be telling you about everything whatever is mentioned here, starting from choosing an AMI to a review and launch option, right? So let's just leave this slide and move on to the next. Next we have security and networking, right? So what is security and networking on EC2? So by this we are saying that we are saying that our EC2 instance is running over the cloud, right? So there must be a concern for security. So to understand that particular concern, what AWS has given to us is the security groups. So these security groups are basically the firewall rules which are allowing the traffic, right? Which are allowing the traffic from inside and outside. Mm, what type of traffic that can flow onto the instance of ours, internally or externally. So the security groups are maintaining that, right? I'll show you how it is maintaining that. So we'll see about it and when we'll be working on it. Then we have key pairs, right? So what is a key pair? So you can think of a key pair like a key. Right. So we have a lock, right? So in our houses, we are usually locking up the almiras or we are locking our house when we are going somewhere, when we are going out. So we are using a key to lock them and to unlock them, right? So think of key pairs like that. So these key pairs are like the keys through which we can enter our instance, right? I'll show you this when we'll be provisioning our instance. You'll have a better understanding what is a key pair. Then we have some VPC integration. So virtual private cloud. So I'll tell you about this as well a little bit, but you'll have a good understanding what VPC is doing here. So we have a subnet, a route tables, and we have internet gateways. So I'll be telling you all these when we'll be provisioning our instance or this internet gateway is a part of VPC, right? So I'll be telling you about internet gateway when we'll be working on a VPC. Same for the route table, same for the subnet, right? So for now, I'll be just giving you an overview about them while provisioning the instance. Let's move on to the next slide. Now we have some storage options as well, right? So there are some storage options for our EC2, right? So how are we are going to store or we are going to access the storage inside our EC2 instance? So first option is Elastic Block Store, or we can say in short EBS, right? So EBS, so first let's read out the points, right? So persistent block storage, for instance, and snapshots allow backups to S3. Okay, so what is happening here is that, just a minute. Okay, so elastic block store is a type is a storage type, right? So on which we are scaling up our storage or scaling down our resource storage, or you can think of it as a high performance storage device which is attached to our instance, and by using this particular thing we can know how much storage is allowed onto our instance, right? So this is what it is used for. We'll be looking into it deeply while launching the instance, because when we are working with it practically, more things will be getting clear to us, right? Then we have instance store. So temporary storage tied to a life cycle of the instance. So it means that to the for the time period our instance is being running, this temporary storage is initiated onto our instance, right? So instance store is for that particular purpose only. Then we have EFS, Elastic File System. This is a managed file storage that can be shared across multiple instances. Means that by using EFS, we can, if we have multiple instances, we can use EFS to share our files across our instances, right? So what will happen that let's suppose we have two instances, right? On one instance we have some data that is uh, that we are working on, and we want to transfer that data to the second instance, so we can make use of EFS. And when once our instances are connected together through EFS, we can transfer the files accordingly. Then we have Amazon S3, right? So Amazon S3 is for storing storing for storing objects, right? So we'll be talking about it as well, and but and sometime for this particular time you can understand that Amazon S3 is also an storage option for EC2 service, right? So let's move to the next slide, that is monitoring and management. So there are three tools. There are three tools through which we can monitor that what is happening on our instance, how our instance is performing, how we can uh, gain insights or set alarms. So these type of things can be done by using CloudWatch. So CloudWatch is also a service available on AWS. So by using this CloudWatch service, what we can do, we can monitor our instance performance, right? We can monitor the performance of our instance. We can also set alarms that the CPU percentage is getting up, or we can say that the CPU percentage is going more than 50%. We can set alarm for that, and we can gain insights about our instance, right? How it is performing, what is the peak threshold that our instance is hitting, that we can use CloudWatch to monitor and manage our instance. Then we have a service that is called Session Manager. Through this, we can automate the tasks like patching, inventory collection, and resource management. We can do all this by using the systems manager, sorry, the systems manager service. We can automate the tasks on our EC2 instance. Then we have a service called auto scaling, right? So like I was telling you in the start, that when there are more visitors on our website, this particular auto scaling service helps our instances to automatically scale up. By automatically scaling up, I mean is that a new instance will be created, and on that new instance our traffic will be divided, right? So the traffic will be divided by using auto scaling. And we can also monitor by going to the auto scaling, that yes, that our peak, that we have set up 80%, that we have set up a threshold for our CPU, and that is 80%. That if our CPU is spiking above 80% regularly, then what will happen, auto scale will come into picture, and it will check that yes, the CPU of our instance is going above 80%. So this means that the traffic is more, that the traffic is more, and this particular instance cannot handle that traffic. So a new instance will be provisioned, and the traffic will be divided between the both instances, and based on that, our CPU percentage that was going above 80% will decline, and it will come back to the original form. So this is what auto scaling is doing for us. Okay, let's move ahead. Then there are some best practices. So we can use IAM roles to secure and control access, which we are going to see. We can implement auto scale for high availability. We can monitor our resources using CloudWatch, and we can optimize the performance by using CloudWatch, right? Then we can, encrypt the data using EBS or using EBS or the key management service. Then we can, we can see the regular update and patch operating systems and applications. So there are multiple practices that we can use or we can allow on our instance. It depends on the work that our instance is doing. Then there are some common use cases, and they are web hosting, big data analytics, we have machine learning, we have backup and disaster recovery, we have gaming. So there are multiple use cases about the EC2, which can be which can be, we can read about them over the internet. Then in the conclusion, we can read about the documentation and how we can get the training certificates and all. Okay, let's just leave it. And in the end, okay, so I believe this is the end of our presentation. Let me just close this. Okay, so we are done with the presentation. I can close this. Okay. Okay, so now what we are going to do, we are going to move onto the browser, and here we are going to understand about everything. Okay, so this is our browser, and this is our documentation page for EC2. Okay, first of all, let me ask you that if you have any questions, then you can ask about the theory.
No, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, so let's move ahead. So this is this particular page is the documentation for EC2, right? So on this documentation page, we can read everything about EC2. They have the AWS team has mentioned everything that what is in this particular EC2. So we can just normally open this particular link for the user guide, and here we can understand what EC2 is, right? So this is the basic definition, or you can say the basic overview about the EC2, what EC2 is and what it is doing for us. Then we have instance types, right? So what compute, memory, network, and storage. Then there are some features of Amazon EC2. uh, what are the instances, what is AMI, right? What is Amazon machine image, right? AMI, which we choose while provisioning our instances. So these are the pre-configured templates for our instances that package the component we need for our server, including the operating system and additional software. So when we'll be provisioning an instance, and after the provision, when we are going to log into our instance, then you'll have a better understanding of what AMI is doing here. Then we have instance type, we have seen it. We have EBS volumes, store volumes, key pairs, and the security groups. We have already understand them. Now let's move ahead. There are more features about the services. There are some related services as well, which you guys can read over the documentation page. So I wanted to see for the pricing, we can open this free tier. So what this free tier is, basically when you create a new account, so you get a free tier. You get a period of 12 months where you can use some services for free, right? Like for EC2 as well, when you have just created a new account, you can use this EC2 service for free, and in that free tier you get instance type. which you can use to provision your instances, right? So then we have some free trials, and what is always free, we can read about them, right? So this is what I was talking about. This is the instance type, right? So there is an instance type called t2.micro, which is a free, which is a free tier instance type, and we can use this for 750 hours per month. Similarly, for every other services that is being mentioned here, if I just filter the things out, so for 12 months free, we have these services which we can use, right? So you guys can view them when you'll be when you get the time to view the documentation page, right? So there are some things about how the billing, how we estimate the billing, and how we optimize the cost for our EC2 instance and for the other services. They have also given us a pricing calculator through which we can calculate the pricing of how we are going to use, or how what pricing we are going to get to use this particular service. We can use the pricing calculator as well. Then then there are some resources section, then there is a resources section here as well, which you can use to guide yourself about the features, about the skill builder program, or how you can get the supports, right? So you can use this uh, documentation base to have a better understanding about AWS. Now let's open the console, right? So to get to the console, what you need to do, you need to write console.aws.amazon.com, right? So, or what you can do on a new tab, just type AWS console, not login, just AWS console. So what you need to do, you just need to use the first link, go to it, and click on the sign in button if you already have an account. If you do not have any account, then you can create a free account as well. So let me log in. So as I have already logged in to my account, so that is why I'm directly onto the console, right? This is a console. This is what AWS console looks like. As I have visited so many services. So this is a tab for recently visited services, where you can see what are the services that you have visited recently. So as I have visited multiple servers, that is why you are seeing here them. And and when you'll be opening your account, your fresh new account, you'll be seeing that it is all empty, right? Now, what we want to do, we want to go to EC2 to provision an instance. So for that, we need to search for EC2. We can see this is EC2. We can click on this to, visit to this particular service. Once you are inside this particular service, you will be on the dashboard for it, right? So we are currently on the dashboard for the EC2 service, and from this dashboard, if we click on this launch instance button, we can directly go to the provisioning state for our instance, or you can say from here we can directly launch in particular instance. But before this, I want to show you where you can find your instances, right? So if you go to this instances running section here, you'll see that currently there is no instances that is running, and we'll be frequently visiting this particular area where we can see our instances, how many have been created or deleted, right? We can see them here. So if I click on this launch instance button, then I'll be provisioning an EC2 instance, right? So if I click on this, what will happen? We are on the launch instance page, right? So first we have the option for name and tags. So here what we are going to do, we are going to name our instance, right? So let me say a new instance as demo instance, right? So this is the name of our instance. This means that Once you have named your it means that when your instance will be created, it will be named as demo instance. Okay, let's move a little further or scroll down. So we have a section for application and OS image. So application and OS image section is nothing but the AMI section that we were talking about in the PPT. So this AMI, okay, so let's just read it out as well. So an AMI is a template, right? So it is a template that contains the software configuration. So by software configuration, it means that the operating system or the application server and or the applications, right, that are required to launch our instance, right? So here is one of them, which is Amazon Linux. Then we have a Mac OS, right? By using this Mac OS, we can provision a Mac OS virtual machine, right? So it will be similar to what you see inside a MacBook. Then we have a server for Ubuntu for we can use this Ubuntu to create our Linux server. Amazon Linux and Ubuntu are a bit different because Amazon Linux is particularly being powered by the AWS itself, but the Ubuntu is different because it is pure Linux service. Then we have a Windows instance as well. By using this Windows instance, so this okay, so it is uh, all changes. Okay, so it is saying something to me that there is an old AMI. Okay, I'll see this. I'll see about it later. Okay, we also have a Windows instance. By using this Windows instance, we can provision a particular Windows instance and we can launch a virtual machine based on Windows, right? So like what you are seeing here on my screen, my laptop is a Windows laptop, right? So you are seeing a Windows 11 on you will be seeing that a Windows 11 is provisioned onto my laptop and I'm using Windows 11 to work on this AWS service. So if I launch a Windows instance, what will happen? A server will be created for me, a Windows server. You can say a Windows server will be created for me, and on that I can just work with the services that I need. For the time being, let me refresh it first. Don't know what is happening here. Okay, so we are going to use the Amazon Linux for the time being. Let me name my instance once more. We are going to use Amazon Linux and we are going to use the Amazon Linux 2023 AMI, right? So this is the latest AMI or the image that we are going to use. Also, you'll find that if you click on this, you'll find that there are multiple images that are available for it, right? So it depends what are the images that we want to use. But for the time being, we need Amazon Linux 2023. So we'll be using this particular AMI only, right? So I have selected this. Let's scroll down. Then we have a description about it, right? So what this AMI is particularly doing and how and on what it is based on. So you can read it when you will be provisioning an instance. And then we have an architecture area for it as well. So there are two type of architectures that we can use. Either we can use a x86 64-bit architecture or we can use a ARM 64-bit architecture. But 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 for our use cases, we are going to work with x86 architecture. Now, the best thing that we have here is the instance types, right? So like we were talking about, there are multiple instance types. So we here also we have this is the option from where we can choose the instance types based on the demand, right? So if I click on this arrow key, I can see there are multiple instances, right? I can see there is a T2 micro, nano, small, medium, large. and multiple instances. Then once the T2 family is over, we have the T3 family here. Then the same thing will be in the T3 family as well. Large, medium, extreme large, 2x large, right? Same things. So once we are done, once the T3 family is over, then we have the C5 family. So these are the general purpose instances. If we scroll down like this, we can find the multiple instance types that are available. And if you go through the list, it is a very big list, right? So you can see there are so many instances. Some are not even available for us to use in our account, right? So these are the industry level instances, right? So this is the instance. I believe this is for the compute or something like that. So on the instances, you'll find that on-demand Linux base pricing is this. What is the Ubuntu Pro base price and what is the Windows base pricing, right? So you can always find the base price onto the instance. When you are choosing an instance type, you'll always find what is the pricing for it per hour, which you can calculate and understand that for this that for how much are you are for. So you can calculate that if you want to use this for 2 hours, then you can just calculate it that yes, okay, so if we are running this particular T2 micro for 2 hours, then I'll be charged for 0.0126 USD per hour. So we can just multiply it by 2 and we'll have our price, right? So for this we are going to use the default instance type, which is T2 micro. Means that also I want to make things clear here that this particular instance type, right, T2 micro is a free tier eligible. Means that for a new account, when you are creating a new account, right, so there was written that you got a free tier as well. So T2 dot micro instance type is a free tier eligible instance. Means that this particular instance is free for 750 hours for a month, right? So if you are provisioning this instance and if it has crossed 750 hours, then only you will be getting a charge to use this particular instance, right? Okay, so we are going to use this T2.micro instance type. Now we have a key pair login feature here, right? So what is this key pair login? As I told you, it is like a key, and to work or to create any instance, we need to create a key pair for it. We can use a key pair which we have already created onto our for our instances. We can use our previous key pairs for the new instances as well. But for the demo, I want to show you how we can create a new key pair. So what I'll do, I will click on this key create a new pair button. I will give a name to my instance, to my key pair, sorry. Let me give it a simple name, demo instance, and I'm going to create an dot pem file format, right? So we'll discuss it later that what is this pem file feature is. And what we can do, we can just click on this create key pair. What will happen, it will download a key pair onto your system, right? So it so the key that you are going to use for your instance will be downloaded onto your local system, right? And then you can use this key to access, or you can say to log in to your instance, right? So if I click on this create key pair button, you'll see that a PEM file is downloaded for me, right? Similarly, if I had created a PPK, uh, a PPK file format, if I have used this, then a PPK file would have been downloaded, which we can use for Putty. Putty is a type of tool which you'll see in some time. Let me just close this and let's move ahead. As we have created a key pair, we have chose our instance type, we have chosen our AMI. Now we need to understand about the network settings that we have in our EC2 instance, right? So this is our network settings. Let me just expand this. And if I click on this edit button, so what will happen? Some more features will be available to us, right? So let's just talk about them one by one. Just a minute. So there is a VPC, right? So VPC is nothing but the virtual private cloud. So we only have a single VPC, which is our default VPC, which is being created by the AWS for us to use it for our instances or for other services that requires VPC, right? So there is a default VPC available in every particular region, right? So currently we are in the Ireland region. If we look, if we open the region tab, then we have multiple regions available. For United States, we have four regions. For Asia Pacific, we have some regions. For Canada, we have one region, and for Europe, Middle East, and similarly, there are other regions as well. But for my account, these are the regions that are available, and I can use any one of them to create my EC2 instance. For now, I'm working in Ireland region, so I'll be provisioning my instance in this particular region, right? So I have chosen my default VPC, or you can say the default VPC was already chosen by default. Then we need to choose the subnet. So for subnet, we can choose anyone or we can choose no preference. If we are choosing a no preference option, then what will happen? There are three subnets that are available, which you can see here, right? So what will happen if we are choosing no preference? Then a subnet will be chosen at random, right? So a random subnet will be assigned to your instance. Or if we are choosing, let's say 1A, so we are choosing the availability zone 1A. So what will happen? This particular subnet will be attached to our instance, right? But to keep things simple, we are going to choose no preference. Then we have a feature called auto assign public IP. So what is public IP? Public IP is a publicly IP that you get a public IP address through which you can use this public IP address to log into your instances, right? We use these to log into our instances, and we'll talk about public IP when we'll be working with VPC, right? It is a topic for to be understandable properly when we'll be working with VPC. What is a public IP, private IP, public subnet, private subnet? There are so many things that we need to discuss, but I will do that step by step, right? Then then right, so there is a firewall option called as security groups, right? So we use security groups to manage the traffic internally and externally over the instance. So for now, I'm just going to create a basic security group, right? So this is a security group that is being created. So its name is Launch Wizard 4. Let us change its name to demo instance. Demo instance SG. SG stands for security group. We can also change the description for it as well. And if you see here, there is a inbound security rule group, right? We'll talk about it in some time. So this inbound security rule group is for SSH, or you can say for port number 22, right? So this is a rule that has been attached to our security group. I'll be telling you about more rules, but let's just keep it to default for SSH and just leave it here, right? Then just scroll down. Now we have an option to configure the storage on our EC2 instance, right? So, so currently for this particular AMI, this Amazon Linux AMI, we are going to use we are going to use 8 GB of a storage, which is a GP3, right? So there are some some SSDs that we can use to configure our storage based on based on the SSDs, we get the performance as well. But for now, we do not need to get a high performance, so we are just going to use the default one that we are getting while creating our instance, right? So let's just leave it to GP3 and just uh, leave it. And then we have a tab for advanced options, which we'll talk about later when we will be working on when we'll be creating some advanced EC2 instances. Then we'll be going to use this advanced details, right? So let me just close this. And 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 up till now we have completed every step that we need to do to to provision our instance. So let's just have a recap once more. So we have given a name to our instance. Then we have chosen our AMI, which is Amazon Linux, right? Then we have chosen our instance type, which is t2.micro, and we also have some other options. Also, if you see, the it belongs to T2 family. It only have a one virtual CPU. So vCPU stands for virtual CPU, right? It have 1 gig of memory, means that the RAM that it has is only 1 GB in memory. And then we have a key pair that we created. After that, we configured some network settings for our instance. And once everything is done, what we'll do, we'll click on this launch instance button, right? But before that, I want to ask that if you guys have any questions about this instance creation.
No, sir. All understood.
Okay, okay, that is good. Okay, so now what we'll do, we'll click on launch instance to provision our instance, right? So if I click on this, we'll see that our instance is being launched, right? So the launch is being initiated, and you can see our launch is being successful, right? So from this particular option, you can get the logs about what happens here, right? So first it initialized the request, which got succeeded. Then it moved to create the security groups, right? So through this you can understand how it created the instance, right? So first is initialize the request, right? So we requested to launch our instance. First what it did, it initializes that. After that, it created security groups, right? So it moved from bottom. It created the security groups, then it created the rules for this security group. And once our security group was created, then what it did, it initiated the launch, right? So by that, our instance was created. So if I click on instances here, so you'll see that our one instance is running now, right? So our instance is running now. It is in the running state. And if I click on the refresh, and sometime you'll see that the status check, it changed. It will change from initializing to succeeded, right? So we need to wait for it as well, so that we can know that our instance is created. But before that, we can understand some more things about our instance. Let me just, okay, so this is the maximum height for it. Okay, so in the details, let me zoom in a little more. So, okay, so we scrolled, okay, nothing is happening here. So in the new update, I cannot take this, upward. This is not good. So let's just talk about some details. So there is a detail section for our instance, right? So here, let me try to refresh this. Now, can I do that? No. Okay, let's go inside the instance. If you click on the instance ID, you will be inside the instance, right? So here you can read about everything what we are going to do from the outside. We'll be doing that from the inside now. So first and foremost thing is we got an instance ID for our instance. This is the most important thing, which we can say that yes, this is a unique instance for us. Then we have a public IP address, right? And we have a private IP address. We will talk about it in some time. So we have a public IP address through which we can make through this particular IP address, our instance is publicly available over the internet, right? So, and then we have a private IP address which we can use to, which is used for some private work, or you can say we use this private IP address whenever we want to make sure our instance, we want to make sure the privacy for our instance, right? Then we have a public IPv4 DNS. So DNS is domain name system. So we use this DNS to access our websites or the applications that we have created on our instance, right? So we use this for that particular things. Now, now we have some host names, IP DNS, private IP DNS names, right? So there are multiple things, right? So for the instance type, we have T2 micro, what is the VPC ID, what is the subnet ID, and there are multiple things. This option has been left blank because there is no elastic IP attached, right? There is no IAM role attached. So these are the options that we are going to talk about in some later in the classes. But for now, you can understand them by just seeing that it is not been attached with the instance. That is why it has been left empty. Okay, then we have the status and alarms section where we can set the alarms for our instance, right? So we can use this feature. Then we have a monitoring feature. In this monitoring feature, we can see about the CPU utilization, about the network in and out, packet loss, and many other things that are available here. There is a security tab, right? From the security tab, you can see that there is a security group that has been attached to your instance. There are some inbound and outbound rules for your instance. So inbound rules means that the rules that is defined that will travel internally from your instance, right? And outbound rules are for the external rules, right? Where your instance, how your instance is being accessed from the internet, that is being defined by the outbound rules, right? So if you are seeing here that this outbound rule has a destination of this 0.0.0.0/0, it means that from everywhere, right? So if we have chosen this particular destination, this destination means that from everywhere, means that from everywhere over the internet. So if the traffic is traveling over the internet, so by defining this particular destination, we are saying that from the internet, whatever there is, just come to my instance, right? Similarly for our source, so this port number 22 is used to connect our instance, or you can say is used to log into our instance, right? We use this port so that we can work inside our instance. So that is why we have used a port number 22, and its source is from everywhere from the internet, right? Then we have a networking section where we can see what is the subnet ID, VPC ID, or some other things, how it is attached, right? Then we have the storage option. So this is the EBS volume of 8 GB that has been attached. We can increase this volume as well if we want to, but let's just leave it. And then we have a tags option. So by using the tags option, you can define what should be on your means what is the name of your instance, so this you can change your name. You can define a tag for development or for production or something like that. So tags are just to specify the how what this instance is being used for, either it is being used for development or for production. You can define the tag based on that. Now let's go outside of our instance and let's check if our instance is available. Right. So as you can see here, our instance is now available to us, right? So this means that the instance is available to us, right? So by this check 2 by 2 check, it means that our instance is available to us. Now I am going to show you how you can connect your instance, right, and how you can work inside your instance, right? So up till now you only have seen how your instance is created, how we have attached some resources to our instance to create a virtual machine, right? So up till now you have just seen that, but now we are going to work on our virtual machine, right? We are going to we have provisioned it. Now we just need to run this machine and we can work on it, right? And how we can do that? For that we need to click on this connect button. There are four options through which you can connect your instance. For now we are going to use EC2 Instance Connect. If we scroll down, we'll see a connect option. We do not have to do anything. We just need to click on this connect button, and what will happen in the new tab, we'll see that our instance will be connected in some time, means that our instance is now available, right? So by seeing this bird you can say that our instance is now created, right? So as we are on a Windows, not on a Windows, on a Linux machine, so we are going to work with commands, right? So in Linux we mainly use commands to do anything, right? So what we are going to do, we are going to install nginx on it, right? So what is nginx? So nginx is a web server. Just a minute, my keyboard. Okay. So Nginx is a web server that can be installed on our EC2 instance, and we can run a web server on our EC2 instance, right? And how can we do that? No, okay, let's just start by running some commands. First command is to update our instance. For that, we can run this particular command which says sudo yum update -y. Right. -y stands for yes, means that if you are running just the sudo yum update, it will work, right? So if I just remove this -y, what will happen? Your instance will be your command will be running, but by just by attaching this -y to our command, it means that if there is by chance, if there is anything that we need to allow, will be allowed automatically by using -y on our instance, right? Now we need to install nginx. So for that, what we are going to do, we are just going to install it like this: sudo yum install nginx, right? So this is the simple command to install nginx, right? So here you can see that it has installed the nginx on our EC2 instance, right? So this is our command that we just ran, and here you can see it is installing nginx. What it has done, it has installed some dependencies as well. So these are the dependencies that has been installed with our nginx server, and you can see the total download size was just 1.1 MB, and the installed size after the extraction of this nginx web server is 3.6 MB. Now, you can see it is asking us, is this okay? Is this okay with us? So what we need to do, we need to type y here, and then now we need to hit on the enter button. And now it has done everything. It has extracted, and it has, it has made sure that the nginx is installed on our server. So once we get this installed and complete option here, it means that our nginx has been installed on our EC2 instance, right? So now if while running the command to install nginx, if I had written this -y, right? So what happened? What would have happened? I do not have to write this y here. So this hyphen y is a feature which is used to directly install that particular service without getting any pop-up. So it means now I can say that my Nginx has been installed on my this uh, on my EC2 instance. Now I want to see the status of my Nginx server. How I can do that? For that I can just run this command sudo systemctl status nginx. Now you can see that when I run this particular command status for the status of my nginx, right? So what we did, we run this command sudo systemctl status nginx. It means that this is showing me the status of my nginx service. So here you can see that the nginx service is currently disabled. Right, so what we need to do, we need to activate, right? So if you see here, active as the what is the active state? It is inactive and it is in dead state right now. So what we need to do, we need to we need to enable this particular service first. So what we are going to do first, we need to start this, right? So first we need to run this command sudo systemctl start nginx. So what this will do, this will start our service, right? So what has happened? Our service is started, but the issue here is that our service is running, but it is not enabled. It is disabled as of now. So we need to enable it as well, right? So for that, what we are going to do, we are going to run this command as well, right? So this is the command for status. What we'll do, we'll just type enable. Sorry, enable nginx. And if we run this, we can see that it has created some sort of a link. It has created some sort of a link. So now if I run the status command now, so you will see that it is enabled now, right? So it is enabled now and our service is now active. So by this, if I go back here and copy my public IP address, and if I paste it here, if I hit on enter, you'll see that by using the public IP address, we can access the web servers that are created or that are installed on our EC2 instances, right? So this is what our public IP helps us. So for now, you'll see that it is not currently running, and it says that it cannot reach this page. Why? Why? Because of our firewall that we have set on our instance, right? If I show you this, this is a security group. If I open this in a new page, you will see that this is a firewall, right? We were when we were creating it, we got this particular service name by the firewall. And on the inbound rules, if you see that there is only a single rule that has been allowed, which is SSH, means that only we can only log into our instance, right? So what I need to do, I need to click on this edit inbound rules button. I need to click on add rule. I have to choose a HTTP rule from everywhere, right? So this is the CIDR log that I need, and I will just click on the save rules here, right? So what just happened here? So now you can see I have my Nginx server running, right? Immediately when I just added this HTTP rule for port 80, what happened? Our Nginx server is now up and running. So why this happened? So most of the web servers run on port 80, right? So most of the web servers run on port 80. So we need to allow port 80 on our security group to, so that our firewall will allow this particular port to run, will allow this particular port, and what will happen, we can access this port over the internet and we can have our service running here, right? So this is This is how we can install a Nginx server and make it run over the instance. And I believe this is all for today for you guys. Now, if you guys have any questions, then you can ask them right now.
No, sir, everything is clear.
Okay, okay. If everything is clear, then what we can do, we can end this session. Let me stop the recording.